Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to What Do You Say? My name is Andrew Termini. With me, as always, is my brother and your host, Frank Termini. If you like what we're doing here, please go out, like, subscribe, and leave us a review. And remember to turn on those notifications so you'd be updated every time we upload some new content. It's been a while, Frank. I've been on a sabbatical. I've missed a few. This is a busy time of year because football season.
I think you missed two.
I think maybe more than that, but
Is it more? This is a brutal time of year.
yeah, it's
With
brutal.
football and volleyball and everything going on in the Termini house.
Yeah, no,
Now my wife can't drive for 6 months.
yeah, that's a whole nother.
Michelle had a seizure.
Oh, really?
Dude, talk about one of the scariest experiences. So it's probably 10 o'clock at night. And I had went downstairs into the kitchen. When I went downstairs, she was fine. I was downstairs for about 5 minutes. I come upstairs and she's laying there. She's staring at the TV. She's got a drink in her hand. I says, babe, you're going to spill that drink. I did a couple things around the bedroom. Maybe a couple minutes go by. I look back at her. Babe, you're going to spill that drink. Nothing. So I walk over there. I pick the drink up, put it on the nightstand. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? You know, I can't really figure it out. So I kind of grabbed the back of her head and kind of rotated her head toward me. And she just looked right through me. You can't even imitate the stare. And so I'm like, shit, is she having a stroke? Is she having a seizure? I knew it was one of the two. So I started to see if she had any one-sided weakness, which she didn't. But she was postured with her elbows flexed and her knees extended. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So naturally I called 911. And man, they did every test under the sun. They did CT scans, blood work, urinalysis, EEG, MRI, everything came back negative. But the neurologist still said you can't drive for 6 months. I'm like, God.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, though. I mean,
No, here, and this is what I told her. I said, take the fact that we'll get sued and lose everything out of the equation. You don't want to hurt anyone. You know, you don't want to hurt yourself, hurt someone else, God forbid. So anyway, so today we got Jeremy Brick. I'm excited to get you on here. So Jeremy, you know, made a huge transformation, humbled yourself big time because you were initially a blue belt, right? And then when you came back as a white belt.
Correct.
And then can we put the picture of him up on the screen?
of his,
And like the very first one, there you go. Let's put this up. That's pre-jiu-jitsu. That's prior to starting or maybe just getting ready to start. Because you were still that big when you first came in.
Yep, I was 305 pounds when I started jiu-jitsu.
305.
Yes.
And now what do you weigh? Probably 200?
yeah, he's a big 6'4". He's not 200 pounds.
240?
230.
230? Okay. All right. So you lose 70 pounds.
I lost 100 pounds and then started lifting weights and then got up to 220, 230.
Okay. So you did get down to 200.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. And then start lifting, trained diligently, probably for the last, 8 years?
Yes, sir.
Has it been about 8 years?
Yep.
And then you go from white belt to black belt and you're just killing people now. Just absolutely destroying people. So did you win the worlds?
Not this year, but I've won worlds at every belt level except for black belt so far.
You won it at every belt level.
Yes, sir.
Just killing people.
That's insane.
I mean,
we've had some people on here that their main goal is to compete at Worlds and win at Worlds.
yeah, and there's a lot of real good guys that haven't done it.
Yeah, and he was.
I mean, Travis Conley is a real good, black belt, and he's went to Worlds as a purple belt like 2 or 3 times and a brown belt 2 or 3 times. He's never won.
Now at Worlds, once you're a black belt, can you not go down and compete at a lower belt level?
No.
It's just not happening.
No, that's
Yeah.
not how it goes.
Yeah. Which is why Travis didn't really want to get promoted to black belt.
Right.
Travis didn't really want to get it yet because he knew that he hadn't won as a brown belt and he wanted to win as a brown belt.
Well, it's a good thing it works the way it does, and a purple belt can't promote you to black belt because then purple belt might look at somebody and be like, I don't know that.
The only one
I want to
like,
go against him.
There's some different philosophies where I've heard like any belt, like let's say it goes white, blue, purple, brown, black. So there's some philosophies that say, hey, a purple belt can promote a white belt to a blue belt, which is really not the truth. Really, it's a black belt has to promote you.
For
Every belt, it's a black belt that has to promote you.
Except when you get to black belt, you have to have 2 stripes to be able to promote to a black belt, from brown to black.
So you have to have 2 stripes to promote a brown belt to a black belt.
Correct.
What do the stripes mean? I'm not familiar with
Well,
this.
a stripe is just like another belt. Like
So-
when you're
so-
a black belt, you can't get another belt, so they'll give you a stripe.
Okay.
If you're still teaching and active in the sport, generally it's the first one is every 3 years. So first one's 3 years, second one's 3 years.
So who promoted you from white to blue?
Jesse Hernandez at NLD.
So Jesse gave you your blue. Who gave you your purple?
Jason Bircher at KCBJJ gave me my purple, and then I switched over to Piretta when I was into my purple tenure. He promoted me to brown belt and then also black belt.
We had Pareto on.
Yep, Devin's been on.
Devin's been on. Did we have the guy you mentioned before?
Jason Bircher, we've
Jason-
never had him on.
No. Okay.
No, which we should. Jason would be a good one to
Does
have.
he
on.
have a nickname?
No.
Okay. There's the guy that we was talking. And,
Devin kept referring to clean. That's Dustin Dennis,
Okay.
who's an absolute fucking maniac. Jason, and I like Dustin.
Yeah.
And I would have bought in here. People could say whatever they want to say about Dustin. If a guy's got Dustin Dennis's tag on his back and he's got any color around his waist, that dude's going to be a handful.
He earned it.
He's going to be a handful.
Yeah.
You could say whatever you want to say. I personally can't train the way Dustin likes to train because my body, there's no way I can handle it. There's just no way I could do it. I'm just not tough enough. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and say there's just no way. But, if, those guys, Dustin's guys those guys are tough.
They are.
Those guys are tough, but here at the same time, Jason, who's probably the most laid back dude you've ever met in your entire life, just a sweetheart of a guy. His guys are fucking tough too. If you got a KCPJJ guy and he's got, blue, purple belt, he's going to give you, he's going to give you a handful, so that's more than me, but I got to think, Jason's guys are as tough as Dustin's guys,
I think there's cliques of tough dudes in every organization, but I would say coming up under the Piretta and the Body Fit and the Dustin Dennis flag, and they're probably a little bit more tougher because they had to endure more, whereas KCBJJ has cliques of tough people, but it's a little bit more jiu-jitsu's for the common person.
Dustin Dennis is not for the common person.
You got to be borderline
Crazy. Dustin Dennis is for the guy that wants to go compete and win the worlds.
Correct.
It's not for the 46-year-old Frank Termini who just wants to go play around and have fun and go get a sweat.
Yeah. Just to be clear, though, Piretta and Body Fit are now under TAC team.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. No, I knew that had went down. Yeah. So
and those guys are TAC team Midwest, winning all the Midwest tournaments. Guys out of St. Louis that were kind of under just as tough as any gym around.
Well, what about Vaghi's guys? Is he still got a gym out there?
I'm not sure about that.
And I know that other guy, that Ezra Lennon, he's a St. Louis guy too, isn't he?
Yeah, I believe so.
And he's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched videos on him, and of course he fought Carlos in that, was it a blue corner deal?
Yeah.
And he's
about 5 years ago.
Yeah. He's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Competes a lot. It just shows you the difference between a guy who competes a lot and a guy who doesn't compete. They're just automatically, it's just a different speed.
Yeah, it's just different levels.
Yeah. It's just a different speed. So,
So what provoked this change? This transformation? What clicked in your head that said it's time to make this transformation?
Well, I was so I did jiu-jitsu and martial arts when I was in my teenage years, 14, 15, 16. And then I did jiu-jitsu, got a blue belt, and then graduated high school, went on to corporate America, started working. So clearly training didn't align with that, working 60 hours a week. Got a family, and then just over time, 5 pounds a year, you look back 12, 13, 14 years later, you're, 305 pounds. My son would have been probably 4 or 5. My wife started her transformation probably 3 years prior to that. We were both, we called it big boned when we try to normalize being overweight. I think as a society, we really are trying to do that a lot more, make ourselves feel comfortable with it. And then so she started it. She started doing 5Ks, then half marathons, and then triathlons and all that. So I was right there by her. And then I decided that I kind of had a panic attack one night, thought I was having a heart attack, dying, ended up in the hospital. I was like, man, I got to make a change.
Chest pain?
Yeah.
What was it?
They just said it was a panic attack.
Really?
Yeah. So I was 305 pounds. I was like, I gotta do something.
What do you think brought it on? You don't seem like a guy that has panic attacks. I feel like Robert De Niro. Do I look like a guy who panics?
So I don't know. Maybe it's God talking to me.
Here, I'll tell you something, Jeremy. I've always been a little high strung. But I went through a season of only about 3 weeks where I had horrible anxiety, terrible, where I was like, I don't know how people deal with this on a regular basis. And I remember I got to my office early that day, and this had been going on intermittently for about 3 weeks. And I got to my office early. It was probably about 6:30 in the morning. My first patient wasn't coming until about 7:30. And I remember getting on my knees and just praying and saying, God, take this away. And I prayed, and I felt it lift off of me. Like I literally felt as if God came in, grabbed it, and just pulled it out of me to the point that I just kind of sat there and cried. And I was like, oh my God, thank you so much for doing this. And I think the reason, I'm trying to rationalize how or why it went down that way. And I think it was because when I dealt with patients that had mental illness, and I'd look at their past medical history and I'd see bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety disorder, I'd kind of roll my eyes and I'd be like, fuck, here we go again. You know what I mean? I'd kind of roll my eyes up at it. And once I dealt with that 3-month stint of anxiety, not 3 month, 3 week, I don't think I could have handled 3 months.
Oh, yeah.
I'd ended up in an inpatient facility, but I would sit with them and that would be the first thing I would talk to them about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I would empathize with them. I never was able to empathize with them, nor did I have sympathy. You know, it was just more of a, roll your eyes, they're not going to get any better type mentality. And once that happened to me, I would sit down and spend 10 or 15 minutes just talking about their mental illness. What are they doing to manage it? How is it getting managed? Is it working? Are you on meds? And really kind of pour into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So listen, people who deal with that on a regular basis, I feel terrible for. I'm not scared of a lot. I'm scared of anxiety. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, it's no joke. It'll paralyze you.
Oh yeah. I thought I was dying.
Yeah.
I thought right there I was dying, and we called the ambulance, and they were, took me to the hospital. By the time I got there, I was okay. And I was like,
do you know why? This is how, because you told yourself you were in a place where you could get help. I'm going to tell you another one where this was right after Nina died, and I was in the hospital. My blood pressure was probably 190 over 110. And this nurse just kept going, well, let's just wait and just recheck it. And after about the third time, I finally said, honey, give me something or I'm leaving. I'm going to go home and take something because this isn't going to work for me. Because the more I kept seeing the number go up, the more anxiety I would get and the worse my blood pressure was getting. Mm-hmm. And finally, my wife walked in, who was in the mood for no shit at this point.
She wasn't dealing with it.
She wasn't going to deal with it. She said, give him something now. And the nurse walked away, and 10 minutes later, she came back. Not 10 minutes, but it felt like 10 minutes, probably 2 or 3 minutes. She walks back by. She said, the doctor said to give you some intravenous Versed, which is basically a tranquilizer, right? And so she IVs me, and she goes, before I give you this medicine, I want to check your blood pressure. And when I knew it was psychosomatic, she checked my blood pressure right before she gave me the Versed, and it already went down like 30 points each side because I knew help was on the way.
Yeah.
I knew she was going to give me that shot, and I knew I was going to melt into the sheets, and I knew my blood pressure was going to drop. So I knew this is, clearly I was dealing with some trauma, obviously, but I knew it was psychosomatic. And then she gave me the shot. As soon as it hit my vein, she checked my blood pressure. I was 110/70. So panic attacks, real life shit.
Yeah, the mind can do amazing things, can't it?
Yes.
So after you had your panic attack, you've come to the realization that
I need to get in shape.
you need to get in shape.
I need to do something.
So you related it to your weight.
Yeah. I knew then, it was kind of a whole opportunity to turn around and say, hey, what am I doing here? This isn't who I am. This isn't what I want to be. My son's 4 years old. He's getting to the age where I want to be able to go throw the football and throw the baseball. And, I didn't want to be like not being able to keep up, but I didn't want to go to the gym and I didn't want to go run on a treadmill or lift weights. So I did jiu-jitsu a long while ago. So I decided, let me find a jiu-jitsu gym and try going back. And the cool thing about it was NLD, Northland Jiu-Jitsu and Judo was at
Liberty North.
Yeah. And it was just on like Sundays and Tuesdays. We didn't train but twice a week. And then Jesse would come in on Sundays. He just got done eating a big dinner or lunch from after church. And then he would be like, oh, well, we're just going to stretch it out a little bit here and take it easy. So if I would have jumped in jiu-jitsu,
you were with the right guy.
I was at the right guy at the right time at the right moment. And I've told him that in the past that, if he wouldn't have been there at that time, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Yeah.
Because jiu-jitsu is hard. It's hard to go in and fail. It's hard to go in there and be the fat dude that everybody's trying to beat up just because.
And I think when you started training, like you might have been there only 1 week, and then I showed up one Sunday, and that was like maybe your second week there.
Yeah, and you probably beat me up because I was big.
I don't know, Jeremy.
I believe that.
I don't know. I wasn't beating up anybody at that time, but
So it was one of those environments to where somebody who was already probably having some insecurities with their weight was welcomed, and the pace of it kind of brought you along to a place to where it was like, okay, they're meeting me where I'm at. I can push myself and see what happens.
Exactly. And it was a good fit. It was close to home. My son was 4 or 5, so I wasn't gone for 3 hours training every day. So everything marked the box, checked the box at that time in my life. And then we ended up getting kicked out of the school a year and a half later, and we'd only been there for a year. So it's not like they were there for a whole length of time, but it was just there at the right moment, at the right time, and started training twice a week. And then, picked up another day at another gym for open mat, and then wanted to compete. And then the rest became history.
So
I remember one of the first tournaments you were in, you had a guy dead to rights and he refused to tap. And instead of breaking his arm, which is what you probably would have done, you ended up letting it go. You remember this over at Liberty Middle School?
Mm-hmm.
And then he ended up beating you.
Yeah.
I remember that. I'll never forget that. You had a guy dead to rights. I think it was in like an Americana.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't tap, and you were either going to have to break his arm or let it go, and you let it go, and then he ended up beating you.
That guy's name's Orlando. He's the only dude to beat me and my buddy Big Jason the same tournament at the same time.
And Jason's a monster. He's a former basketball player, right?
I don't think he played basketball. He's just very athletic.
Why did I think he was a collegiate basketball player? Mm-hmm. We're talking about the same guy, black dude?
Yeah.
What's Jason's last name?
His Walker. He's in Georgia now. He's a professor at a medical college.
Okay.
He still does jiu-jitsu. He's a brown belt down there.
Is he? Okay. Yeah, I remember he was a really tough guy.
Yep. Me and him started right at the same time. So
yeah,
we tried to kill each other.
Yeah.
Still do.
Sweetheart of a guy, though.
Depends on what day you ask.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I'm sure you had to do some type of diet modification. What did you do?
Well, in the beginning, I just showed up and trained. And then my wife got into these figure bodybuilding type
I
competitions.
remember that. She did well too. She looked great.
Yeah. So
I haven't seen her forever.
So she did that for about 2-3 years. So her diet was really strict. So at that time, there were certain things that just weren't coming in our household. So it makes it real easy when she's food prepping all week long to just join on.
Right.
She didn't push it on you though.
No, my wife's never pushed it on me. It was just there. So I'm not very picky. If we're gonna eat chicken and rice, we'll eat chicken and rice. I don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
So diet, and then when you work out, now it's do jiu-jitsu 6 times a week and go to the gym 2 or 3 times a week. Now I can't. It seems like I gain weight more now than I did back then.
Well, but here's another thing. I remember I was way leaner than I am now when I trained jiu-jitsu because my cardio, you'll never have good cardio if your diet's shit. You can train all you want. You will hit that wall and your cardio will not get better until you change your diet.
What's the science behind that?
It's true. I can't tell you. Here, think about it. Think about this. Fat is oxygen consuming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So you have to consume more oxygen. Of course, muscle's oxygen consuming too.
Well, and I think maybe how your body processes, high fat foods and the blood flow and circulation. If cardio is, circulation, blood to your heart, I would imagine that.
Like you look at these heavyweight boxers, there's muscle wasting there. Those guys aren't freaking 240 and just ripped. It takes too much fuel to get through 15 rounds.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, or 12. What do they do now? Is it 12 or 15? It's 12. I think it's 12 rounds for boxing.
Nobody watches boxing. Everybody watches UFC.
Well, even them. Here, you look at those guys that are heavyweights that are absolutely ripped. I'll tell you right now, if they don't win in the 3rd round, they're going to struggle.
Yeah.
They're going to struggle. That's hard to fuel. That's just, it takes too much fuel to keep all that muscle going. Look at Muhammad Ali. Of course, they look at Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was jacked.
Yeah, he was jacked.
But Mike Tyson also won most of his fights in the first 3-4 rounds.
And he was only 5'5". He's not a big, he's a freak.
He's a freak in nature.
He's a freak. You can't compare everybody to Mike Tyson.
He's that guy.
Yeah, he's that guy. He's him.
that guy.
He's him.
I don't know what the science is behind it, but generally when you eat cleaner, you feel better.
Yeah.
For sure.
You not have to process so much sugar. And
so Michelle, back in April, and I'm the same way as you. When my wife eats good, I eat good. So Michelle went keto, and I'm like, that's what I'll do then. And I'm going to tell you, aches and pains. I still have aches and pains, right? I mean, my body's been beat to shit, but it's way more manageable than it was when I was eating all that sugar. And when you fall off of the wagon on that diet, you can definitely feel your neck hurt, your shoulder, your back, hip, and everything. You ache the next day.
Sugar's poison.
It's terrible.
Let's be honest. I mean, it dries out your muscles. And when your muscles get dried out, that lets enter in the pain because you've lost flexibility. Your cardio's struggling. If you're going to reach for something, it's probably better to reach for a fatty food than it is for a sugary food.
Way better. And the FDA and they demonized fat.
Oh yeah.
And they should have demonized sugar.
Yeah.
I mean, we know now sugar attributes to, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune disease, cancer, joint pain, depression, anxiety. They relate sugar to all that stuff.
And they say if you starve a tumor from sugar in your diet, you're more likely to beat your cancer than is if you were to continue on a sugary diet.
Right. So you lose the weight. How long did it take you to lose the 100 pounds, Jeremy?
Sorry, my son's texting me.
That's all right. Do your thing.
He's at home. cooking lasagna.
You need to call him. You could call him.
No, he's good. We'll find out in a minute. Maybe the house is on fire.
I didn't get a notification, so I think you're good. You live in Kansas City, I would have gotten a notification.
No, he's Kearney.
We're in Kearney.
Okay, well, you're on your own. I can't help you there.
I probably lost 100 pounds in the first 4 years.
It took 4 years.
3 to 4 years. I think by blue belt I was starting to get a lot leaner. So yeah, probably 3 years, 2 to 3 years. I didn't really keep track of it. It just came off easy and just kept showing up and just kept working out. And it's kind of one of those things when you start seeing results, you're like, oh man, well, if I just eat a little bit cleaner, then you get better results. And then you're like, oh, well, if I just start lifting a little bit of weights, and it was never one just all in at one time or not. It was just everything I did added to my jiu-jitsu journey. So I hate going to the gym. I went to the gym before I came here, and I despise lifting weights. I despise being on the rowing machine, but I always have to contribute it to, this is going to help me in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, no, I told you, I made this comment to Gianna yesterday. I said, because Gianna has a ton of potential in volleyball, a ton. And I said, but you're going to have to nurture that potential. And a lot of times nurturing your potential means you have to do things that you don't enjoy doing. Like here, if you go play volleyball 3 days a week, every volleyball player is playing volleyball 3 days a week. So now you didn't do anything to outwork anyone.
Right.
Okay. Now, if you do volleyball 3 days a week and vertical 3 days a week, now you probably outworked half of them. There's still half of them that are outworking you. Now, if you do volleyball 3 days a week, train vertical 3 days a week, and lift also, now you probably outwork 90% of them. There's still 10% that's still doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, that 10%, what if they're genetically just better, right? What if they're going to be 6'3", right? What if they could jump 36 inches? You can only do what God's going to allow you to do, but you need to bring the best version of yourself to the mat, to the court, to the field.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then let the cards fall where they fall.
Control what you can control.
Here, the controllables. The controllables are your attitude, your effort, and your response.
Correct. 100%.
That's it. That's all you can control. That's it. And I just realized last week, Coach Simone, he always makes one coach discuss one topic. And last week it was me. I had to discuss grit. And when I was discussing grit, I read some articles on it, and there was 4 components to it: courage, perseverance, resilience, and passion. Well, one of the things with perseverance is you cannot have, number one, you can't have courage unless you have fear. You have to have that. You can't have perseverance unless you have suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you have to, and then resilience is being able to control your response to what happens to you. Right? And I ended up quoting, I found this Viktor Frankl. You ever heard of Viktor Frankl?
Name sounds familiar.
He was an Austrian neurologist. His father died. His father, his mother, he's forced to abort his child in the concentration camp. Okay. Then his wife gets murdered in the concentration camp. His father dies of starvation in the concentration camp. Okay. And his mother and his brother are killed in Auschwitz. And after that all happens, I wrote this quote down. I was actually fascinated by it, but he says, everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Says that after his entire family gets killed in the Holocaust.
One way to look at things.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, is that resilient or what?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what made me realize attitude and effort aren't the only controllables. Response is another one.
Yeah. That's good.
You can control your response too. So I push like my kids and even the players in what they can control. So if Frankie's attitude and effort is off, I will jump his ass for that. I do not jump his ass for performance. I don't care about performance. But I will jump his ass for his attitude and his effort, because that's the type of habits that you'll bring that same attitude and effort to school. You'll bring that same attitude and effort to your relationships. You'll bring that same attitude and effort to your job. And next thing you know, you'll be broke, no wife, no kid. I mean, you won't have anything.
Nope.
So no, I don't give two shits about how good he is at anything, but I do care about how much what his attitude and effort is. I do care that I will, like when football first started this year, I jumped his ass and he got in the car. He goes, "I know you hate me right now." I go, "I don't hate you. And I don't care that you got the shit beat out of you today, because you did. I don't care about that. But I do care that you were half-assing it."
Yeah.
I am going to because I finally just looked at him and said, "Just run." I said, "Just run. I can't look at this anymore." And I made him run the rest of the practice. And I went off. But then I grab him, hug him, kiss him, tell him I love him, assure him that this is not performance. I don't care about that. I never do. There's plenty of kids that, are balls to the walls and they're not very productive on the field. Maybe they don't have the body habitus. Maybe they don't have the speed, but they have that it factor. And you just, you want to coach those kids.
Yeah.
So I'm big on that.
I agree.
I'm big on attitude and effort.
So I'd like to talk about when you started realizing that you can compete at a higher level. It sounds like your weight loss was very progressive, which that's sustainable. You made lifestyle changes progressively over an extended period of time, which is that's sustainable and permanent weight loss. Obviously, your workouts increased and you started stacking good days on top of one another. But when did it come to you? Like, it's like, okay, I want to compete at this and I want to continue to reach a higher level.
Well, when I started, I had a goal. When I started at blue belt, I started competing middle of white belt, competed a few times at white belt, and then I competed a whole lot at blue belt. Any local tournament around, I'd compete at. And then there's a larger jiu-jitsu tournament called the IBJJF, and then they have what's called Master Worlds, which is the pinnacle of what we do, or the World Championship. And then you have Pans. And my first time I went to Master Worlds, I was winning a lot of these local tournaments. Thought I was doing pretty good. And then, I went to Master Worlds and I just got beat my first round. There's 10,000 competitors out there. 5 minutes later, I'm done. So I'm like, I don't like this. This isn't,
Where was Master Worlds at?
Las Vegas.
So you went all the way out to Las Vegas to compete.
Yeah.
And you've been crushing it locally.
Yes.
Winning tournaments. And you went out there and you're like 5 minutes and done.
5 minutes and done.
In retrospect, what was the difference? Was it the speed with which the guy was?
No, it was preparation.
Really?
Yeah, it was just, these guys have just been competing longer, understand the process. What a lot of people don't understand about a jiu-jitsu match is just as much as a game as a football game is. You got to understand it's only 5 minutes long, but there's strategies in it. There's understanding the scoring. There's understanding, the ebbs and flows of those 5 minutes. And the more you do it and the more you understand it and the more you practice those skill sets, the better you'll be. And at that time, when I lost, a buddy of mine that I was training with, his name's Sam Brimmer, he went out to same Master Worlds and just won his whole division, won the second, I think, in open weight, and just armbarred everybody. I was like, I want that. What he had, I wanted. And I made a goal to myself. I said, you know what? I want to win a world championship at every belt level coming up through jiu-jitsu. That's when I left there, I don't know, sometime I was like, I want to be at the top. Then I went back a year later, got 2 bronze medals, and then 2020, I won gold at blue belt, and then 21, 22, I won gold at purple belt, and then 23, I won gold, and then
You tap everybody with Kesa.
no, because the better people get, the harder it is to actually submit them. You're
winning by points.
You're winning by points more.
Yeah. But I know your Kesa got absolutely wicked.
Yeah, it's something I've just drilled a million times, and
do you have any video?
Yeah, I got if you pull up my Facebook account, there's
go to Facebook and type in Jeremy Brick.
There's a reel of several of them together.
Yeah, I want to watch.
All right, let me see if I can.
Because I remember talking to Jesse, and he's like, "Man, Jeremy's case is just getting ridiculous." And I remember Jesse teaching it to me, and then Travis kind of added to it as well. But
yeah, I'm teaching seminars. Taught probably 10 seminars now on it.
On Kesa?
Mm-hmm. Our technology crew needs to they need to get we need to pay them more.
Yeah, I know, right?
Right. He's not very good. It's not really.
Imagine if it was just me, Drew.
Right there.
Yep.
There we go.
All right, now if you go to my reels right there, there should be one. Let me see where it's at. Go down, go down, go down. Hold on. Yeah, next one down. Right
Here?
there.
All right.
I want 13,000 views.
Mount Kesa.
Now this was in European Championships at brown belt right here. That was in Europe.
Yeah, he's sitting. That's Kesa Gatami. See how his left leg's sitting forward. What did you do? I didn't see it.
Turned it into front Americana. This is at blue corner.
See how his knees underneath his head, Drew?
Yeah.
That's he's just sat Kesa Gatami.
His head's going. He almost turned his head purple.
Yeah, it's when you're 4 minutes into a match, the worst thing you want is somebody crushing your diaphragm.
Oh, it's miserable. Man, you got that down.
This was in Brazil last year. I won the Brazilian Nationals last year. This was at Pan American Championship, I think 2022 or 23, something like that. So that's it.
Man.
So that's a small part of the game. That's one of the.
You got any guard stuff?
Oh yeah.
You got any up there? I want to see you in the guard. What do you play? Close guard more?
Yeah, I don't have any reels of close guard. But yeah, I play close. I pulled a guard a lot. So,
yeah.
Yeah. I normally, which sounds interesting though, but my favorite submission out of guard is cross collar choke from guard.
Right.
So it's white belt stuff that still works.
Listen, I was listening to a podcast with Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo. They were talking about Cron Gracie, Hickson's son.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, that guy don't do nothing flashy. Take the back, choke. Take the back, choke. Over. I mean, he has all I don't know if it's not some rubber guard, flashy, inverted. He looks to take the back from every single position that he's in and rear naked choke you.
Yeah.
Over, and he does it over and to the most high level guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Hydra Gracie, one of the best who's ever done it, is he's mount to cross collar choke from mount, and if you defend it, he goes to an armbar, and that's stuff we learned at white belt days.
Yeah, and he's just got it. He knows the timing. He's got perfect balance. He can feel it. He knows when he can go for it. You know, he has all those other things that are really tough to teach.
Yeah.
Without doing it over and over and over again. Right.
Yeah. The thing about once you start getting from purple to brown to black, you have to have an all around game. You may have an A game, which you would as any NFL coach. You got your script what you want to run, but you know what you want to do, but you have to be able to deal with every position,
Sure.
and it all kind of funnels back to what you do well.
Do you think developing your guard was probably the hardest thing?
No, because I played guard from the very beginning, because when I started jiu-jitsu, everybody got all butt hurt because I was so big. They always complain about the big guy being on top of them. So I'd always just sit down and pull guard, so I didn't have to listen to them complain about the big guy being on top of them.
So then you developed a guard.
So that's how I developed guard. Because I'd rather somebody be in my guard than be in somebody's guard. So
Really?
100%.
Why do you say that?
Guard's an offensive position. I'm in control. I'm controlling his hips. I'm controlling his posture. He has to escape my guard to progress. So he has to make 2 movements to succeed. I only have to make 1.
Huh. I never thought about that. His 2 movements are A, posture,
He has to break the guard.
and he's got to pass your
And then
legs.
he's got to pass the guard.
Yeah.
I don't have to do any of that. I can sweep him. I can submit him.
And even if he breaks it, you could just transition into a different guard.
Exactly.
You could go spider, butterfly, half.
Exactly.
I never thought about that.
Yeah,
I hated guard.
Yeah.
Here, you know what my biggest problem was? It took me forever to get over it, and Jesse's who broke me of it. Claustrophobia.
I could see that.
My biggest issue with jiu-jitsu when I started, the one thing that would make my palms sweat was claustrophobia. And the amount of times that I tapped at the beginning due to claustrophobia, way more times than actually getting submitted. It was terrible. And Jesse locked me in his damn basement and would just lay on top of me and surf me. And then he would take his gi and wrap it over my face. and he would make me escape and just be like, calm, stay calm, breathe. You know what I mean? He would talk to me and, but it was horrible. And then I finally realized, listen, there's not many guys whose top game is as good as his. Not many guys are able to make themselves feel as heavy as he can make himself feel. If I can deal with him for an hour on top of me, I can go compete in a tournament.
Yeah. I think we all go through that. I think we all go through, panic tapping when you're on bottom because you can't breathe. And I think as you progress, you realize that it's just another place to be able to escape from. And then you learn how not to be there as much.
Yeah. And more than like for me, I wasn't ever, I got to blue belt and then I started coaching football and I just didn't have time to do it anymore. But I never, blue belt's just a decent white belt, so I never got really, really good. But what I was able to eventually do, which allowed me to progress and actually not be afraid to compete, was get myself comfortable in those bad positions when I was mounted. If a guy had me inside control and not panic and just breathe, chill out, relax, and, work and escape. When initially I would just freak out.
Well, I think it's also, I hate being on my back and I don't do jujitsu, but I've been a wrestler and was trained to never be on my back. That's the end all be all. You're done. You go on your back. And it's knowing that there's a way out of your current situation. So if somebody's on top of you, okay, well, what am I going to do to get the hell out of a position when you don't know what to do? You panic. You know what I'm saying?
Well, look at it like this. You're a fireman, right?
Yeah.
Are you scared to be in a house of smoke?
No.
Why?
Well, I've been there on several times, but more than anything, it's training.
And you know how to get out.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same thing with jiu-jitsu and somebody being on top. You've trained it so much that you know to get on the hose, to follow the hose out the house.
Yeah.
You know all that. So no matter what comes at you while you're in that house, you have the answer to it because you've put yourself there so many times. But when you were a rookie and you went in that burning house the very first time, it was a different story, wasn't it?
Completely different story. It was nothing but fear.
Exactly. So
but you leaned on the guys in front of you that were chill, that knew what they were doing. And,
So when you're training jiu-jitsu, you have to be in that position 100 times, 1,000 times. So you have the confidence to know that you know how to get out. And just like when you start off with fireman, it was probably adrenaline was rushing, heart rate was beating. Now you walk up on a fire, like, all right, let's get the hose out. Let's just run it through this way, go vent the roof.
yeah,
And, and to you, you've done it so much, but to that new guy sitting right there,
he's frantic.
he forgot to put his respirator on. He, turned it.
He's taking unnecessary steps to where honestly, when I go to a house fire and I see a fire, there's a little bit of the, oh shit factor, just because that, this could be a life or death situation, but really time seems to slow down for me.
In your training, you've done it so much and your training has kicked in so many times that you can think clearly. And I would bet you most of the time when other people are panicked, not even in fires or not even in, life or death situations, but when other people are panicked, you're probably the most calm, chill dude in the room because you're used to learning how to think through situations that other people panic in. And that's what jiu-jitsu will do for me, or that's what jiu-jitsu has done, is you're able to think in chaos.
Yeah.
So give you a perfect example. We had a guy a couple of years ago ended up going to cardiac arrest at work. And I'm CPR certified, but I'm sure as hell not a firefighter or EMS.
Yeah.
But, we had to give him CPR and, everybody's running around panic. To me, I remember vividly, it's just like, okay, it's going to go knee on belly, actually, tight position and just count through my reps. And it was just like having a match at jiu-jitsu. The only difference is, now the guy is sitting here dying. So clearly, but my ability and your ability to think under stressful situations transcends into multiple areas in life.
For sure. I agree with that. I see what you're saying.
So like you said, claustrophobic, now you're not claustrophobic, but I bet you that same skill set you learned in jiu-jitsu transcend into football,
it's taken me some time because of how fast things happen. And I think even the head coach and who's also the defensive coordinator will tell you, I'm the last person on the staff to get flustered.
Exactly.
The last. He will get flustered and start screaming and hollering. And normally who he screams and hollers at is me. But I will literally block. Hold on. There we go. I'll literally block him out. And I will be on the iPad not listening to anything that he's saying to me. Because, especially if he's jumping my ass. And I will be looking for some type of information that I could give him to just get us off the field. Get the defense off the field. But I am the last person, the last coach that's going to get flustered in the middle of a game when an offense is tempoing in us. They're chipping off 4 and 5 yards of carry. He's screaming at me, give me some feedback. And he'll, that's just, it's not personal, it's just the sometimes, I don't know if you've ever coached football before, but it can definitely get heated. And my job on Friday nights, I'm in the press box. So, I'll get the call from the defensive coordinator, and if something goes wrong, I have to give him feedback. What's going on? Why don't we like this? Why do we like this? And if they're chipping off 4 or 5 yards of carry, marching the ball down the field, and he's looking for feedback, and he starts screaming and hollering like he does sometimes, I can stay incredibly calm. I will look at because sometimes you don't see it. It happens so fast, you have to look back at the iPad. Luckily, we have Huddle now. You can look back at the iPad and say, okay, this is what we like. This is what we don't like. This is what we need to do. Let me give him some type of information to get us off the field. And,
or you might get a text from your brothers watching the game.
That happens too sometimes.
If I'm not in the box with you, I'll send you a text, be like, hey.
But you see how he gets. You can hear him screaming and hollering. It can get incredibly nerve-wracking. Because sometimes, you can prepare, you can watch film, you can look at tendencies, you can have a very good idea of what they're going to do, but sometimes you get caught playing checkers in a chess match.
Yeah, no kidding. Wait till somebody's trying to choke you.
Right. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude.
for sure.
You know,
Yeah.
somebody's got their arm around your neck and you're trying to figure out how are we going to get out of this? You
Yeah.
know, you just spent $1,500 to fly all to Vegas to turn around and get choked out in front of your family in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Was that how long it was?
No, my first match that I lost, my first world championship, it was 5 minutes. It went the whole
With the whole.
thing. But no, it's but still, it's you just learn how to deal with stress better. And I believe jiu-jitsu has helped me be a better father, husband, parent, you know, leader at work. Just be able to deal with stress and
Here, I'll say this. I started training, I was 29. I stopped training when I was 40. Now it was intermittent. I had kids, I had work, I wasn't, I had the twins, had Gianna, but I stopped at 40 when I started coaching football. There was just no way. I had no time to do it. And it has changed the way I coach. It's changed the way I teach my kids. It's made me way more humble. I absolutely love jiu-jitsu. I do. I love martial arts. Because just like we were talking about earlier, I don't think we were recording when we said this, but it's diplomatic. Anyone can go do it. Here, if a kid who has no athletic ability, no muscle in his body at all, nothing, shows up to Pirates Gym, he's going to get to train. He's going to get as many reps as you get, the black belt. He's going to get, if he wants to go compete, he can go do it. He can go do whatever he wants to do and get as good as he wants to get and get as good as the amount of effort he puts into it. You can't do that in any other sport.
Nope.
You don't get to do that in any other sport.
And you can do it your whole life.
Yeah, and you could do it your whole life.
You know, we were talking about that earlier, how, kids, you're only going to play football. Most kids are only going to play football
Through high school.
Through high school. There'd be some that
3%.
That play in college and a very small. But by the time you're 20, your football days are over. So jiu-jitsu allows.
And what are you? How old are you?
43.
You're 43. You're still competing. Training 5 days a week.
No,
6.
6 days a week. Yeah, training 6 days a week.
So, you talked earlier about how you respond, effort, attitude, and response. And I just saw that picture up there. That was last year, not this year, but last year at Master Worlds. And if you look at my right eye, it's almost completely shut on that picture.
Oh, yeah.
I broke my orbital bone 2 days before this picture was taken at Master Worlds.
And pull it back up.
So my right eye is almost completely shut. I was training, nothing crazy, happened to catch a foot right in the face and broke my orbital bone.
Oh, man.
And this was probably my one and only chance to go compete at Master Worlds at brown belt. So we had to think of what are we going to do? My wife was like, look, I know what you're going to do, but at least go to the hospital and get it checked out to make sure you're not going to die.
Yeah. I don't want that guy looking across the mat for me, to be honest with you.
It's intimidating.
I don't want that guy.
So I went to the hospital the morning before we were flying to Vegas, and they took what's a CT scan or MRI or something, and said, I broke it. I couldn't see out of my left eye very much, or that's my right eye. I couldn't see out my right eye, but it was like, look, I didn't train this whole time to not go out there. We weren't going to use an excuse. Only the people that knew. And whatever happens, happens. And then I ended up winning gold and silver that day. Gold in my division and silver in my weight class or open weight.
Yeah.
But that's the response we need to teach our kids. Like I said, effort, attitude, and response.
Yeah.
Because some people would have turned around and just said, nope, we're just not going.
Right.
But
people who are afraid to lose do that.
I don't know about all that. All I know is we didn't work that hard.
That's the thing. It's the time and effort you put in to get to the place that you wanted to be. And at that point, you were like, all them hours are wasted if I don't go out there.
Yeah, at least try.
At least try.
At least go out there and,
Yeah.
And I think that transcends a lot of things we do in life. With my son, he's old enough now to witness this journey. So hopefully you're setting a good example for him of when life throws some curveballs at you, and
For sure.
so
Yeah, no doubt, man.
Seeing you persevere has only got to fuel his, will and passion to do the same thing.
I think eventually one day it'll end up, we have deep conversations. He's like every kid, he's planning on going into the NFL and he's going to do the NFL first and then go play baseball after. He's going to be like Bo Jackson.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But
here, don't, like, in my opinion, just because here you said you're 6'4".
Mm-hmm.
Man, let him get your height. There's not much you can't do with that 6'4" frame. I mean,
yeah, that's coming from a guy, coming from a couple of guys who are barely that. You're what are you 5'8", 5'5". I'm 6 foot ish, maybe on a good day. There's nothing in the world I would do if I could be 6'4".
Yeah.
I mean, in that frame, there's so much.
There's tons you can do. And here, and let's say he didn't go, if he loves football, I promise you at 6'4", if he gets your height, I promise you he's going to go to college and play. Now it may be NAIA, but I promise you he'll go to college and play.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
He's
got to,
because he's going to get mean. That's going to happen. That just happens as he gets older and more confident. That will happen. Not to mention, look, when I was in 2020 was our first year I was first year coaching at Pius, and I'm not going to say the kid's name, but we could swear this kid was not going to be a contributing factor as a senior. There's no way this kid's going to do it. And that kid came out and was an all-state defensive lineman his senior year. And we went to the state championship again. Now we didn't win, but we still went to state championship. He was all-state defensive lineman and was instrumental on our team. I've seen kids do it from their junior to their senior year.
It flips.
It just flips.
Yeah.
It just happens.
You finally get the confidence.
And you know what it is? He got confidence. More than anything was here. In my opinion, and this is pretty much any coach, unless you're one of them coaches that's making tons of money. Any coach, the only job you have is to create and preserve confidence. That's it. Athletes who are confident will perform outside themselves. They will do things above and beyond what their athletic abilities allow them to do. As a coach, the only thing I try to do, create, preserve confidence. That's it.
I think those coaches at the highest level have to do the same thing, though.
They do. But at the same time, a lot of them coaches, their athletes are already coming to them with confidence, sometimes too much.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? You look at Nick Saban, Kirby Smarts after the loss to Alabama. He told his team, that's the most proud of him he's ever been for fighting for 60 minutes.
Listen, I've listened to a 45-minute talk from Kirby Smart on the 4-3 defense and breaking down how they got so good at stopping the run. That guy's a freaking genius. Kirby Smart is, no pun intended, so smart.
Yep.
He's so smart.
And he connects well.
He breaks it down from the defensive lineman play. He breaks it down from the difference between playing a 2-eye and a 3 technique and how the different and how their responsibilities are different. Just a little shade, it changes everything. He breaks down, the backside defensive end versus the play side defensive end versus, the linebackers, secondary. I mean, you name it. This guy broke it down, and I mean, that he's a genius.
But do you think he's so good because he's that smart, or do you think he's so good because he's able to connect?
Both. You got to have both.
So
you got to have both. I know what you're saying, but you got to have both. You have to be able to relay the information to your players, and you have to be able to get your players to want to compete for you. but you got to have the wherewithal.
Well, yeah, at that level, you definitely.
Yeah, but he's got both. I agree with you.
There are no bad teams. There are only bad leaders, and I'll give you an example. So there's just Navy SEALs. Navy SEALs, when they train, they'll go out at night and they'll go to the ocean and it's freezing, and they'll take, their boats and put them over their head, and they'll go out there and they'll flip back around and they'll race back to the beach, and they'll just kind of just repeat it. Well, team number one is coming in first every single time. Team number 6, which is the last team, is coming in last place every single time. And the officer goes over to him, he tells him, "Sir, you better get your team together. You better get your shit together now." And he's looking around, and he can tell that the guy that's the head of the boat, because there's one leader of each boat, he's looking around at his guys going, he's taking no responsibility. This is not my fault. It's the guys you've paired me with. So the 2 instructors say, "You know what? Let's do this. Let's run this test back. Let's switch leaders and see what happens." And they run the race back. Team number 6 finishes second. Team number 1 still finishes number 1. The next 10 races after that, team number 6 wins every single one of them.
I tell my team at work, absence of leadership will create chaos.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when you're talking about football, you're talking about Navy SEALs, you're talking about corporate America. When there is a lack of leadership and vision and guidance, you will have chaos amongst the troops.
And here's the other thing. Leaders are different than bosses. Bosses create anxiety. Leaders create comfort.
I agree. 100%.
It's you have to have, in my opinion, you have to look at the ultimate leader.
Oh, yeah.
And lead the way he led. And you'll agree with this because I know you're a strong Christian. You have to. Jesus is the ultimate leader.
Absolutely.
If you want to look at leadership, you have to lead the way he did.
Well, go ahead.
You finish.
What's interesting, though, when you talk about Jesus as a leader, everybody looks at Jesus as a passive leader. But when he walked in the temple,
he was a savage.
Exactly. He was savage when he needed to be savage.
Yes.
And
Craig Groeschel does a whole series. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he's a big time pastor and an author, but it's called Savage Jesus. And there are times where Jesus went off and acted like a maniac.
So we're going from jiu-jitsu to leadership now. That's something I kind of do every day. But a lot of people get it twisted that being a good leader means being soft.
No.
You look at, I reference like sports, or you look at like even Andy Reid. There's a policy in the Chiefs. I just heard this the other day where you're not allowed to wear black cleats for the Chiefs. That's his Reid's policy. So if you remember the first game of the season, they're talking about the Baltimore Ravens, and Mahomes was like, "Well, I guess you should have worn white cleats, and maybe you would have got away with that toe." That's even Mahomes and Kelsey. He's not soft on these stance. Or you look at Nick Saban when he was a coach, or Kirby Smarts. They had to keep their undershirts tucked in at all times.
There is nothing more frustrating for me than a kid who has their shirt untucked. It looks sloppy. It drives me insane.
Exactly. So good leaders aren't necessarily soft. Good leaders learn when to be soft and when sometimes you got to cut the cancer out.
And here, there's a reel of Nick Saban getting on one of his assistant coaches to say, "Look, I'm not going to be the only one getting on these guys about their shirts. I want them tucked in." Yep. And the coach, then, jumps the kid's ass and says, "Hey, come on, Let's go. Look like everybody else does. Makes the guy tuck his shirt in.
He said, if I can't trust you to do simple things, simple or easy, how am I going to trust you when it's 4th and 1 and not jump the call?
That's right. That's right. You know, I don't disagree. I don't think there are little things.
You know, I'm at where I work at. I talk to my team all the time. Is the little things matter because they contribute to the big things. So if you keep a standard at little things, you know, then the big things end up taking care of themselves.
One of the thing that I think all leaders have is the ability to be assertive, not aggressive. And that was one thing that I struggled with. Because I was nice, but then you would push me, I would skip assertive and I would get angry. That's not good. You don't want to do that. I had to learn over the 12 years that I owned Core Physical Therapy how to become assertive. And then I also had to learn that, and it took me 5 years, probably 5 years into it. If I had an employee that was going to make me get aggravated and turn me into aggressive, I just fired him. I did. I was like, look, if you're going to turn me into that, I'm not, you know what? I'm firing you. And that's just what I did. I had to surround myself with people who were like-minded, had the same goal, had the same mentality, and it takes a while to wean those folks out. I don't think.
Let me ask you this question. Okay. Say you're in a situation to where you can't pick your team and you can't fire someone.
That would be tough for me.
So you can't pick your team and you can't fire somebody.
Then that's as
you're stuck with who you got.
As a captain on the fire department, I can't pick my team, and I can't fire them or tell them to leave.
Your HR people probably put you through some leadership training. Then
Probably not.
no,
It's the state.
I mean, our the leadership training we get, like the Navy SEAL books that I read.
You did it yourself. My issue, I had to just learn as I went. But the problem was I was also treating patients 60 hours a week. So I didn't really have time to sit there. And one of the things that my mentor, Frank Ferrantelli, who I've tried to get him on the podcast, he told me no. But he told me this one time. It stuck with me. Don't hire projects. You have a small business. You don't have this big corporation. You don't have this HR or this big HR team to back you. You're treating patients 60, 70 hours a week. Do not hire projects.
The opportunity he runs into is he don't have a choice.
No
on
choice.
Who shows up in that firehouse. And if I was in that spot where I couldn't pick my team, right, and I turn around and can't fire my team, you're going to have to find a way to connect and find value in each one of them. Because here's what happens. Ultimately, inherently in people's DNA, they want to be successful. Sometimes people are confused with what success looks like.
Yeah.
Sometimes their definition of it's different than yours.
Exactly. So you have to find out. I don't know how many people report up.
I have 6 people that report to me.
6 people.
Yep.
So each one of those 6 people, you have to connect on a different level on an overarching goal of what we have to do. One guy, it may be, you chew his ass out and he rolls a fire hose up the right one. Next person, you may have to pull over his side and say, hey, look, man, by you rolling this fire hose up wrong, this is the long-term effect it causes on the whole team. And I know you're not here to want to create work for everybody else.
Yeah.
So in that situation, you have to figure out the why and the how to each person.
Yeah. For me, I have to look at my guys and say, okay, what do they value? Do they value their family? Do they value their personal time? Do they value this job? And I find points in which I can connect to them.
Exactly.
And so once I make that connection, then I start to speak into their lives.
We used to have the golden rule. What was the golden rule? Treat people the way
you want to be treated. Yeah.
But that's not what it's like. Treat people. Now it's the platinum rule. Treat people the way they want to be treated. Because the way somebody treats you as an ex, football player, hard nosed grit may be totally different the way somebody treats you, or somebody that didn't come with the same background. Cause they may tell you, look, pick up the damn water hose. I don't want to tell you again. And that's, yes, sir, not a problem. You get it. But if you tell somebody that didn't come up through the same environment,
That's, you know what? I never thought about that. That's actually, that's
Here,
that's deep.
when we used to get on fire scenes, the old guys, and this is 15 years ago, there was kind of a shift in how things went. Uh, If you did something wrong on a fire scene, you get called a stupid motherfucker in front of the entire battalion, and that made you never want to do that. What you did again.
Right. You don't get that. You don't get to do that anymore.
You can't do that anymore.
HR ain't going to allow that.
or did it run a lot of good dudes off?
It did because you weren't developing talent at that point. You were using an old way of thinking to ridicule and correct harshly and in front of everybody.
It's primitive.
It was very primitive.
Yeah.
And now you have to say, okay, I don't like what this person did. How am I going to address it? Well, I'm going to address it individually, but I'm going to address it as a team too. So I'm going to bring my whole team together. And so I didn't like what one person did. I'm going to train my whole team on it. So I'm not singling them out.
Exactly. And we're in an economy I've been in leadership for 22, 23 years now.
How many people answer to you?
Anywhere between 200 to 275.
So you run the whole show.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That has got to be really, you tell me the name of the company.
U-Haul Fulfillment Center.
So you have to
You
have
also-
went through some type of training to be able to manage that many. No?
No, most corporations.
God darn. I mean,
now here's the deal. We have in U-Haul, we have online learning classes, but a lot of what you did as a fire chief, a lot of you learn.
Captain, don't want to. I haven't ranked up yet. So
Right. You learn just like in jiu-jitsu. If you want to learn, you go seek knowledge. All right. And then you figure out where you come up short. All right. And then you continue to get better at the areas you come up short at. In my development of leadership, it's changed. So 22 years ago, you could tell a dude, look, you dumbass,
yeah,
why did you do that? And that was acceptable, kind of airing out in the late 2000s. Now I do that, man,
you'll get sued.
yeah. And that's okay. Cause
Here, I got sued for a lady that came to work one time, never showed up again. And when I replaced her, she sued me and she won
yeah, so
$61,000.
yeah, so as you learn, and you say you made this comment, you can't pick your team, but you go to battle with the team you have.
absolutely.
These are the chips we have.
I look in the mirror and say, if the success and failure of this team, my crew, is directly reflected on who I am.
Sure.
and we're in an economic condition now to where jobs are plentiful. All right. The younger workforce is 100% okay with leaving at the moment's notice of they don't like what you're doing. All right. So
Which makes it very difficult for people in your shoes.
it does, but it doesn't, because if you know this and you know what you're working with, then you know how to hedge against it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I work, my facility it's a warehouse. It's like the Amazon of U-Haul. All right. And we have average tenure at our facilities 4.5 years on an entry level job. All right. The average tenure at Amazon is like 8 months. Right. It's because we're constantly feeding in to the person as a whole, from the supervisors to the managers to the leads to the team members. All right. There's the intangibles of what you can do that doesn't cost money. I'll give you a perfect example. The lady that I work with, I'd call her my admin, but she's our project coordinator. Her office is right outside my office. She was walking to her office. She saw a teammate. been with us 10 years, was just struggling with something. All right. She's like, hey, you want to talk? Brings her in her office, sits down in her office for 45 minutes, talks to her. It's all personal, has nothing to do with work. Right. I don't go bang on her door asking why you're wasting time. I don't really care. I'm just like, God, I hope it's nothing to do about work. Because,
Right.
this team member's been here a long time. And then they hug it out and they walk out of the office. Right. That was an intangible connection that didn't cost the company any money. The problem is companies don't nurture those type of environments. A lot of bosses would have called, knocked on the door. What the hell are y'all doing in here? We got work to do.
Right.
Right. So when you're leading a facility such as I do, is where can we make those connections? Another example. And is that going to keep her there? Maybe, maybe not.
Right.
We have a closed donation bin. Well, what do you mean? Well, team members, where did your wife, what did she do with your kids' clothes when they go out of them?
We bring them up the street to the
Goodwill.
Goodwill.
Goodwill. Okay. Well, what we did at work is we set up our own little area where people drop off clothes that their kids grow out of. And guess what? Other people go through them and, oh, well, I got a baby. And they take the stuff home. Is why take it and give it to Goodwill to somebody I don't know?
When you could give it to someone you work with.
When somebody I could drop in the same place as somebody I work with.
Yeah.
So those are intangibles when you're talking about leadership people, is you have to be able to connect where they're at. You have to be able to make it to where they want to be there. And you have to be okay with them leaving too. We're an entry level $18 to $25 an hour job. Can I be mad when somebody walks in my office and says, hey, I found that higher paying job?
No. Here, my employees were making anywhere from $70,000 to $100,000 and they would leave me.
Yeah. So,
and my big thing was, hey, listen, I will never, ever get mad at you for going somewhere to make more money.
no.
I'll never, ever get mad at you for that.
So we have to make sure as an organization, we understand that. As long as it's a mutually beneficial partnership, you show up to work, you do your part. We pay you on time. We pay you well. We take care of you. At the end of that, when our last day's here, we can walk out as friends the same way we walked out.
Sure.
We hire high school kids, 16 and 17. We're one of the very few people in our industries that do that, which I hope nobody else does it because it makes it easy. They're some of the best workers we have.
Yeah.
They're at our facility during our peak season, which is summer, because that's when everybody's moving. But I always tell them, I don't want you working here in 10 years.
Right.
I want you to use this as an opportunity, make some good money while you're in high school, go to college, go learn a trade. If you want to move up in management, we'll work on that. But I don't want you at 28 years old, still
Making $18 an hour.
making $18 an hour.
Which right now goes nowhere.
Yeah. And,
It does nothing for you.
we have a lot of people who have been there for 10, 15 years making that, making higher than 18, but because that's where they're at. But I don't want my son working there for 20 years packing boxes. And I think when we talk about leadership and engagement and all that, it gets so lost in the ones and zeros of people, and we forget how to connect with that one-on-one. My whole staff's job is to take care of the people there, and the people will take care of the processes. Do we miss it? Man, we miss the boat every day.
Sure. Yeah. With that many people, you're going to.
But we have to at least be smart enough to realize where we missed it.
Yeah. And correct it.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah,
and that even comes down to me. There's times where, I've missed the boat and an employee engagement opportunity, or I didn't listen well, or I didn't give, and I've had to go back and apologize. Say, hey man, we were in a meeting and, I used the term redhead stepchild. Y'all ever use that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, there happens to be a redheaded sitting right there in my meeting, redheaded female. I was like, golly.
Yeah.
So after that meeting, a little bit later in the day, I say, hey, sorry. I hope I didn't offend you. That wasn't my intent. She started laughing. No, it was no big deal, but it could have offended her.
Yeah.
10 years ago, I wouldn't even cared.
Here, look, that's the same way I was. I had to stop using the word retard. I did,
Definitely
because
can't use that word now.
but you know what? It's a terrible word. It's a terrible word. And you know what? It was very offensive to one of my employees, and she was rightfully so, and because here, like at the end of the day, I don't look at someone who has mental illness, right? Or a developmental delay. I don't, I don't, wouldn't call them retarded.
No.
You know what I'm saying? But if you're doing something stupid, you know what I mean? So,
And that was branded as we're all relatively the same age. That word was branded that way growing up.
it was never used to
It was
describe
never-
someone who had a developmental delay.
No.
Never. You would never call someone who had a developmental delay retarded.
No.
But mom might call you retarded or me retarded for something that we did. But nonetheless, it offended someone, and someone I care very much about. And I was, even if I didn't care about her, I don't want to offend her.
Right.
So I had to stop using the word. So anyway,
You got to modify your behavior at some point to connect with people, and you don't want to feel like you're walking on eggshells. But we're in a society today where there are people who are just a little bit more sensitive.
well, that, and you have to be careful because people are, here it is what it is. They will sue your ass, and they will sue your ass because they know they can win. It's not, it has nothing to do with did you do it or not.
Right.
I mean, if especially if you work in corporate America, I'm sure you've ran into this. Whether you did it or not means nothing. If you get accused, you're screwed.
Now, see, I'm going to take a step right now. I can say I work for an organization that cares more about the facts than the accusations. So we have to do, like when stuff rises up to top in my facility, we do an investigation. The first liar doesn't win. The person that, there's been a lot of times stuff spun out and it's spinning out of control, and the person who's actually the problem runs to us first, and it's real quick.
But what I'm saying to you, if you get accused, if someone decides to accuse you of sexual harassment, if someone decides to accuse you of firing them because they're a woman, if they decide to say that you fired them because they are black, you could get sued, and you are no way, shape, or form going to win that.
I disagree wholeheartedly. First off, you mean win it in the court of public opinion and win it in the law?
I'm talking about winning it in the legal system.
100%. We have won many of those because you know what? If the same person that hired you is sitting there is the same person that fired you, you clearly hired them knowing their X race, and you clearly fired them. And then if you can pull out the demographic sheets to show, hey, this is the demographics of our workforce. These are how long the tenures are. These are the raises. We're an organization that I work for that, when we screw up, hey, we make the screw up right. But I can tell you I have been sued probably 2 or 3 times. I've only lost one. We probably should have lost it. We made a mistake. We paid for it.
Here, I'll just give you my experience. I had a girl who was the highest paid employee in the company, who I gave her a leadership role over someone who was a male that worked for me longer. I proved all this. She said we fired her because she was a female. She won. She won. So here, she asked for $105,000, and my partner at the time told the attorney that the insurance company assigned to the case, if you're dumb enough to give, because the attorney said she wants 105, I'm going to try to settle it for 60. And he said, if you're dumb enough to give her 60, give her the 105 and leave me alone. And he hung the phone up, and we never talked to the attorney again. And then they just came to us with settlement papers.
Now that's the difference between the insurance company and a company like U-Haul that is independently insured because we're not going to write you that check. We're going to spend $100,000 fighting that because we know the precedent it sets when you start settling cases that you didn't do.
So you're in a different environment. Right. So you're
here. The city of Kansas City is also that way.
So
they will seek to settle quicker than you can turn around.
Here, we had another girl, black lady, came to us, worked one day. She never came back. We called her. We had documentations of calling her, trying to reach out to her, couldn't reach out to her. We didn't even fire her. We replaced her. We needed someone that was going to be at work. She sued us, won.
Was it work comp or not work comp? Was it unemployment?
It was an EPLI case. She said that we fired her because she was black. I was like, no, we never fired her.
Yeah.
We never fired her. She never came back to work, so we just replaced her.
Sounds like you need better people on your.
Well, what happens is the insurance company is going to simply settle it. Period. Case closed. And then we had a sexual harassment case, and the sexual harassment just drives me insane because the burden of proof, once they accuse you, the burden of proof is on you to prove it didn't happen. She doesn't have to prove that it did. And then the other caveat is if you go to court and the jury says this is a bullshit case, I just want to get out of here, I'm going to give her $1. She gets one. Soon as the court gives her anything monetary, you have to pay for her attorney fees. But if you win outright, she don't have to pay yours. Right? So now you're looking at $250,000 in attorney fees plus your $250,000. So we ended up settling the case out of court. We had to pay her.
Yeah.
And then they write up some document that says we are not admitting that we did this. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because, sexual harassment case is incredibly frustrating. It's an insult. It's very much emotionally charged. It is. I swear to God, if I was a multimillionaire, I'd have said, fuck her attorney fees. We'll pay him if she wins. We're going to fucking court.
Would you have though? Because
100% fuck her. I would have 100% done it. If I was a multimillionaire, I would have said, fuck her. Well, how much here?
Okay. So let's talk about a multimillionaire that's under fire right now in jail. Billionaire.
Diddy?
Yeah.
Well, but Diddy was jacking with kids, Andrew. That's not sexual harassment.
Well, hold on a second. These are. There's no proof that he was
in jail. I don't even listen to the news.
He's in jail. There's no proof that he has. It's all accusations. Now the court of public opinion. He's guilty. He's Jeffrey Epstein.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So where are we going with this?
Where I'm going is, how is he going to fight that?
How's he going to fight it?
How
legally or public opinion?
Well, public opinion, he's going to lose. He's lost at a public opinion already. They're having a field day with it, and it's clickbait. Of course, the people out there are talking about shit that who knows if they know them, and they're making money off of it because they have a YouTube channel. My question is this: is how does that guy get a fair shake?
How does he get a fair shake? Well, luckily, he's got plenty of money to have good lawyers to turn around and make sure he has a fair shake in the courtroom. Now, with that being said, it's all comes down to what he did. Did it violate the law? And I bet you he goes to jail for a very long time. And
I agree.
Even with his fair shake.
No, I think the dude, number one, I think he's guilty.
Yes.
I think there's some.
I think there's a sickness there. And I think that sickness is really all over Hollywood.
I would agree with that.
And I think if you listen to that girl, what's that girl's name? She's liable to get a bullet put in her.
Oh, that Jaguar, right?
She's liable to get killed. That girl outed everyone.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going on the record now. I don't know what day it is. October
8th.
I don't think Diddy committed suicide.
Okay. You think he's going to go away?
He's going to go to the same place Epstein went.
Yeah.
There's too many. There's too many.
So you don't think Epstein's dead either?
No, I'm saying when he ends up dead in his jail cell, I don't think when they say he committed suicide, he actually committed suicide.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, he has dirt on too many people.
Yes, dirt on too many people.
And he could sing like a canary to get himself a lesser sentence, for sure.
You know,
I think some of those people are politicians. Maybe not as much money as him, but definitely more power.
But I don't know if they're politicians to the level Epstein had Epstein had the Clintons, he had the.
So Epstein was your political.
Well, here, look at the whole deal with that Jerry Sandusky. Jerry Sandusky had a Philadelphia district attorney pick the case up. The Philadelphia DA walks into an antique store in Pennsylvania, never is found again, never seen again, and the computer is found with the hard drive destroyed. They made a Philadelphia DA disappear, Andrew. Listen to me. There was way more people that knew about Jerry Sandusky than Joe Paterno. Joe Paterno was the scapegoat. Joe Paterno was the one that said, hey, look over here. Look over here. They're firing Joe Paterno. That's all that was. That's all that was.
And I think that Diddy is not the guy, but he is the fall guy.
No, I think he's the guy.
I don't think he's the guy.
I think there's many people.
I think there's people above him.
If you're the type of dude that is going to sell your ass for money, you're a fucked up individual. I'm sorry. Listen, I've went through hard times. I'm sure you have. You're a blue collar guy. You're a blue collar guy. You've had bills keep you up at night. I ain't selling nothing for money.
No, I agree with that.
And there's plenty of dudes that don't have virgin asses so that they could make it big in Hollywood. Absolutely not.
What's even worse about the Diddy stuff is when they start putting these videos together, like Justin Timberlake
Justin Bieber,
when he was like
with Odell.
Who in their right mind would just send your kid
to Diddy camp?
Not even just
hold on. I wouldn't send my kid over anyone's house. My kids don't spend the night nowhere. You know how I am. If I don't know you my entire life, my kids spend the night over Simone's house, Sansoni's house, Cardello's. That's about it. The people that I've known for 40 years. I'm not letting my kids spend the night nowhere, let alone P. Diddy. I give a shit about P. Diddy.
And all these people have been dropping these hints for all these years.
I mean, here, Wendy back in the she's got the show, Wendy,
looks like a dude, black girl, huge tits.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Her. She was calling him the homo thug in 1999.
Hold on. Here, it's not just him. They mentioned Meek Mill. There's
Usher.
Usher. Which I mean, shocker, right? I mean, all this. I mean, did that really shock you?
I mean,
But here, Corey Haim and Corey Feldman told you 20 years ago this was going on in Hollywood. Corey Haim killed himself over it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
Corey Feldman has been saying this for 20 years.
You know what's real shocking is that the head of Michael Jackson's security is the head of P. Diddy's security.
Why does that shock you?
It shocks me because, you know what? It makes sense, but to me, it's wrapping my head around it, thinking he's getting here. How is this person tied into both of these environments?
I don't think Michael Jackson's a pedophile, Andrew.
I don't think so.
Huh?
I think so.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you think he was? I think he's guilty of being stupid.
No, that's Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
You think, well, I mean, here. At the end of the day,
I don't think he's. I don't. I need to choose my words wisely. Maybe he didn't go to as extreme as maybe P. Diddy did.
Yeah.
But I think he definitely liked being around young kids. And I think he probably had inappropriate situations with young people. But again, who lets your 14-year-old Macaulay Culkin
go spend the night at Michael Jackson's house? Yeah, let P. Diddy ask me to have my kids spend the night over there. I'll smack the shit out of him.
He's P. Diddy is the artists that were signed to him. I
gotta wonder if P. Diddy had Pac and Biggie killed.
Oh, that they're saying.
That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying.
He's
Here,
tied to
I
both
mean,
of them.
here.
And Aaliyah.
Think of think about it. Jaguar Wright, she asked, who do you think the best rappers were of all time? And she said, the people who are dead is the list.
Yeah.
She said it.
Yeah.
She said Aaliyah would bury Beyonce. She'd have buried her.
Yeah. And,
She would have absolutely fucking buried her.
and that comment about Jay-Z putting Aaliyah on a faulty plane so he can elevate Beyonce is like,
Oh, wow.
What-
I didn't hear that.
Oh, yeah. They said that you got to listen to that Jaguar Wright. I'm telling you, if Jaguar Wright don't get a bullet in her, nobody will.
I don't know. Cat Williams, I'm still trying to digest.
Jaguar Wright put out way more dirt than Cat Williams ever thought about
And
putting
she
out.
said-
And she said Cat Williams is who inspired her to do it.
Okay, I got to listen to this.
yeah,
I'll send it to you. It's
Jaguar
unbelievable.
Wright wouldn't be Jaguar Wright if it wasn't for Cat Williams.
Did you ever hear how Shannon met up with Cat?
No.
All right, so I was listening to Shannon's podcast or his clips. So he's been trying to get Cat Williams on his show for years, and basically Cat would never return his calls and never really link up with them or whatever. So on the way to his agent on one Friday afternoon, he's on the elevator going up, and this lady steps in, and he's like, "Oh, hey, how are you doing?" Blah blah. He's never really seen her, and she's like, "Oh, well, today's my last day at his agent's office." And he's like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Well, what are you going to go do?" She's like, "Well, I'm going to go be Cat Williams' agent or publicist or whatever." He's like, "Oh, really? I've been trying to get a hold of him for years and get him on my show, blah, 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 blah." And she's like, "Oh, really? Well, give me information." Like a week later, he's on the show. Like, that isn't divine intervention, connecting some dots.
Yeah, I just sent you the Jaguar Wright podcast. It's unbelievable. You won't even believe the shit that this lady says.
So
I mean,
if half of it's true,
Hold on, if a tenth of it is true, I mean, then Hollywood is completely jacked up.
Well-
I mean, and I think it is. Honestly, if you listen, let's face it, and I don't want to project this onto you. So I want everyone to know that this is my opinion, not Jeremy Brick's, not Andrew Termini's. Okay,
Let's get that clear.
Let's
I don't
get
know
it-
what he's about to say.
we have no idea what he's going to say.
Here.
Yes.
I am very far right. I don't know that I'm very far right. I just think the left went very far left. But if you look at Hollywood, okay, what is it predominantly, other than Matthew McConaughey?
I mean, it's
It's liberal.
it's liberal.
It's liberal. Okay. If you look at the people accused of this, the politicians accused of it, they're liberal.
I don't disagree with you.
Okay. All right. So if you look at all this, if you look at this agenda, it is pushing this. It's pushing it.
So
I mean, Joe Rogan even said it the other day. All of a sudden, they're so far. Joe Rogan sounds like Rush Limbaugh. They're so far left that if you don't support hormone blockers for preteens, then you're transphobic. He said it in a podcast yesterday. He said they've went so far off the wall. And look at what's happening. Look, I mean, all of Hollywood is she's pointed out not half, 2/3 of the entire hip hop culture as being fucking pedophiles, Andrew.
And homosexual and
I don't even care about homosexual. Keep it. That's fine. Anymore, that's normal. Anymore being a homosexual is normal.
But here, what they do is the recipe is let's get a young minor. Let's put them in a compromising situation. Let's record it, and then we'll say, "Now you're on our team." It's like getting jumped into a gang.
And we had someone on our podcast who is a very good dancer who had that experience, and she was smart enough to realize something ain't right.
Something ain't right. Yeah, she was.
Something ain't right here. She was 12, 13 years old and said, "This ain't for me."
I get it now.
And I mean, you could see it now.
I could see it now.
And then we ended up, there was names mentioned in the podcast
yeah.
that, we couldn't mention it, but she realized something is wrong. This isn't normal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everywhere you go in Hollywood.
Hollywood and that kind of limelight kind of thing, because at this point, especially the music and movie industry, they're remaking the same shit that we watched as kids. What happened to new ideas?
They don't have them.
It's like that's all they want to do is recycle and blackmail and manipulate people. And I
look, if that's what happens to you when you get money, I don't want it. I don't be broke.
Yeah.
Because part of me's thinking, maybe did Diddy just get bored because he got every piece of ass that he ever wanted, or was he already sick? Did his drive not only grow but grew perverse?
His defense is going to be Clive Davis did it to him. He's a victim. And that's
I don't think you get off on that one. It doesn't matter. You still got to be.
Look, if you do it, you did it. No matter what caused you to do it.
Agree. 100%.
It doesn't matter. Like, let's say you were abused, so you abuse. You need to go to jail.
Yeah, I don't think he gets off on that one.
You know, you need to go to jail.
You know, but if he's a victim, then that means and I haven't heard that one, but if that is true, then it's inherently in his DNA that lifestyle is acceptable. And
if you get an erection from a young kid, you cannot fix that problem.
No, I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
Like, in my opinion, if a young kid gave me an erection, I would rather be executed.
Absolutely.
100%.
I would rather be executed.
Put me down.
Just put me down.
Put me down.
So, I mean, when you're talking about homosexuals, like, okay, great. Meek Mill, they say he's gay. Okay, big deal. Right. All right. He's gay. I mean, so's Elton John.
Right.
So is a ton of good artists and actors and that I like. I mean, at the end of the day, anymore, I don't care if you cut your genitals off. I don't care if you want to be a dude with tits, a chick with a dick. As long as you keep your shit away from young kids, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just where I'm at anymore.
I support that opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I do. I don't even care. I'm not transphobic, but I'm not going to have a teacher ask my 8-year-old daughter if you ever thought about changing genders. No, I'm not. You're not doing that.
No.
You're not. And no, I'm not letting my 13-year-old daughter and my 10-year-old daughter walk into the bathroom with grown-ass men and take a piss. Nor do I want to take a piss next to yours.
All right, so let me ask you a question. All right, so have you been to the airport?
I got in an argument with the lady because my wife goes, Frank, I'm taking the girls to the bathroom. And she was about 10 feet away from me. I said, take them to the girls' room. And this lady started to get all pissy with me. I'm like, don't do it, lady.
Hold on. You didn't let me finish. Have you been to the all-gender bathroom?
Yes, I have.
No, have you?
Yes.
To me, it's just a stall. You pee, it's from bottom to top.
It's completely covered.
It's completely covered. It's just like a private bathroom.
I get it.
The only thing that's common is where you wash your hands.
Yes.
Right. So you get a stall, you get a door, you get all that. You even know who's in the stall. It's got a light. It says red, green.
Yeah, right.
So you know if you open a stall, somebody's in there.
Right.
Are you okay with that?
No, I don't want my daughter in the bathroom with grown-ass men. But I made my wife walk, I don't know how far away to bring my kids to my daughter. And you know what's even weirder? I don't give a shit if Frankie's in there with grown-ass women. I don't want Gianna and Gemma in there with grown-ass men.
So you don't want them washing their hands with grown men.
I don't want them in the bathroom. I don't.
Is it because you don't want to normalize it?
I don't care if it's normal.
Because
what's normal to everyone else is not normal to me. I don't care what anyone thinks.
Because isn't that technically just like two independent bathrooms right next to each other? What would be the difference if they went to the same doors and just walked out the same bathrooms with the same wall that was the family bathroom?
I don't have an answer for you other than I don't like it. I don't. And I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm not going to make an argument that I'm right. But I will make the argument that I don't care if everyone thinks I'm wrong.
Well, here's what you got to think about. Your bathroom experience is you do your business and you wash your hands. It is a 1-2 punch. You're supposed to do both of those.
Right.
Technically, your experience in the bathroom is not finished until you wash your hands. So it's kind of at a midpoint.
We're in the mid.
We're in the midpoint. It's like I just did what I did in there, you just did what you did in there. Now we're washing our hands together and we're having a conversation. But in the women's world, a woman might go in there and get in the mirror and wash her hands and fix her makeup and do that. It's a different experience.
Now, see, I don't, as a man, I don't have a problem going in transgender, or not transgender, the all gender bathroom. But as a woman, I would be like, dudes pee on the seat all the time. Right. You know, they stink. You know, it's like, as a woman, I think I would have a problem with going in a bathroom. That's
what I just said. I have a problem with my daughters going in there. I don't care if Frankie goes in there.
I went into
like, here, Frankie, you see some boobs?
I ate at Mildred's down off Wyandotte. And they had one bathroom, and it was male and females. And I had females behind me that were going to use the restroom. And I go into the restroom, and they don't have a urinal. They have a toilet. And there's piss all over the toilet.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, there's females behind me.
And they're going to
think I sprayed this toilet.
And you got to tell them, look, it wasn't me. It was like this. You guys are on your own.
I wadded up as much toilet paper as I possibly could. And
good for you, man. That is good.
I wouldn't have done that.
I wiped the toilet down.
I would have done the same thing. That's good stewardship and leadership right there.
You know, I'm just like,
that is leading the way Jesus would lead. Jesus would.
He would have done that.
He would have wiped the piss off the table.
And Jesus is a way better guy than I am.
Like, I just can't let this female come in here and look at this bathroom and think that dude just left and there's piss everywhere. He's a scumbag. And I'm like, I'm thinking, who are the other scumbags that are pissing all over the toilet, knowing that this is a male-female bathroom?
You may have bad aim or a prostate problem.
I don't care.
Just wipe it up. If you know it's your own piss, who cares?
Wipe it up, man.
I wipe my own piss up every day.
I mean, come on. You know?
All right, we got to get off this rabbit hole because I'll sit here all day and I want to ask one more question. I want to know, so you started doing seminars.
Yes.
Do you plan on not just training and competing, but migrating into teaching?
Not right now. My role, I believe, is, to help others, but there's still so much that I need to learn. I enjoy helping, at Pirates, I enjoy helping, Pirate and Brooke and the rest of the team members, but I don't necessarily know if I want to be responsible for all the day-to-day and all that stuff. Maybe one day once my son gets out of high school and I'm not worried about kids sports and I'm not worried about high school stuff, but definitely not in the foreseeable future.
Right.
I enjoy helping our teammates out. I enjoy teaching seminars. I enjoy seeing people succeed, but jiu-jitsu is still fun. And I don't want to start crossing the line of where I'm responsible for somebody else's journey.
Right.
It's a lot easier to help than it is to be the one commanding the ship.
Yeah, I get it. Which shocks me to hear you say that because you command 270 troops a day. So I think that would be easy for you.
Yeah, but it's two different skill sets.
And you have layers of management.
Yeah. Well, it's just, there's still so much to learn. Just because you're a black belt doesn't mean you actually know all the stuff. I learn stuff every day.
It's infinite.
Then I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know that. And it's my outlet. I don't want it to become a burden where if I ever did it, me and my wife talked about it, it would probably be kind of like what Travis Conley did, have a barn at my house, because we're looking at building a house in a couple years once my son gets out of high school, on a couple acres, have a barn, choose who I want to let come in, do it certain nights a week. But that's only if we decide to do that.
You're not going to do it to make money.
No,
you'd be like Jesse, kind of. Jesse doesn't care if someone pays the dues or not. He's just, he's doing it to train and help people and expose them to the sport.
Yeah. But right now where I'm at in my journey, is to help my team, be successful, see those guys, see it change their lives the way it changed my life. I really enjoy seeing the guys that are getting better and being able to help them day in and day out, and just show up and be a good example. I want to be at our gym, I want to be the people that they say, hey, if Jeremy can do it, I can do it too, because nothing I have done has been anything special except for just showing up, working hard,
and being consistent,
being stacking days.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me the other day, hey, I'm going to train 3 or 4 days a week for this tournament. Do you think that's enough? I'm be like, well, what do you think? Do you think that's enough? I can't determine this. This is what I know.
Yeah. I mean, that varies from person to person. When I was competing in a tournament, I trained every day. Just because for me, so I would train every day, but I would do one day with Travis, one day with Carlos, one day with Jesse. And then I was stuck in terrible positions by what I would consider guys way better than anyone I was going to compete against. And that allowed me to go in that tournament confident. Now, whether or not I won or not, sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. But I was able to go in there feeling like I was prepared and confident.
Yeah.
But I would train 5 days a week when I was competing for a tournament.
Yeah. I think everybody, the great thing about jiu-jitsu is the quality of time you put in is an investment and builds interest. The problem, a lot of what we have in jiu-jitsu is we mistake quantity for quality.
Right. And so another quote that I had last week was practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So to sit there and practice 2-3 hours is not productive for me. I need to be in the gym an hour and 15 minutes in training that entire time. Not me and you shooting the shit, which happens sometimes. Not me and you doing any of that. Me and you training, whether it's flow sparring, drilling, sparring, any combination of those things for the entire hour and 15 minutes, other than when I stop to get water real quick.
Yeah. And, that's important. And it's important, like where we're at with Pirate, he, every rep, if he sees you make a mistake, he's going to fix, even if it's something small. Where's your hand at? Because he understands that bad habits build bad habits. So if I'm not putting my hand in the right place now when I'm drilling, I'm definitely not going to put it in the right place when I need it.
Right. And you're out of breath and you can't think and the guy's on top of you. Yeah. Right.
So, that's my role. So my role isn't to open a gym today. My role, I enjoy teaching seminars. I enjoy helping our team. I enjoy seeing my friends be prosperous. I enjoy seeing, I get people hit me up on Facebook or Messenger and ask me questions. I enjoy answering those. But I don't have any goals to open a gym anytime soon. It's my outlet. I don't want it to become a job.
I hear you. God bless you. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. And I really look forward to seeing you win the worlds as a black belt.
Well, you know what? That's the last chapter of the book. So let's see what happens.
And in August is when it'll be, right? That's when the worlds come up?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what are we going to name this podcast? It's the Jiu-Jitsu Leadership
Pedophile. Yeah. Here, what's crazy? They do, Dane, so Moss Marketing does all the editing for everything, and they always come up with a real good way to, in a paragraph, go with, what we talked about. And I don't know if you've listened to any of my podcasts, but they all kind of do this. We always, that's why Michelle's like, Frank, you told me you were going to be done at 7:15. And I'm like, we went down a rabbit hole, babe. Yeah. We started talking about Diddy and pedophiles. And so it happens all the time.
All right. Well, I got to get home. I hope my son pulls the lasagna out.
Yeah. All right, brother. Thank you so much.
Oh, let's get a picture real quick.